And Joey Dwyer of Vandy Sports here. Alabama's beaten Vanderbilt 78-66 tonight at Memorial Gym. And before we talk about the game, there was the part before the game that really is the biggest thing coming out of tonight. Liam Robbins is out 4 to 6 weeks with a sprained ankle. Congrats to you for breaking the story. Not one that you wanted to break. But my goodness, Robbins leads the team in scoring, rebounding, shot blocking, where he's one of the best, 5 in the country at that, 5 or 10.
Ranked fourth.
Fourth, yeah. Free throw percentage, field goal percentage, I think. I mean, whatever the stat was, Robbins led them in it. And goodness, I don't know if it's fair to say, well, I think it is fair to say, you saw what it meant tonight, because look, they played a team that's ranked number 4 in the country. Some people think is the best team in the country. It has Brandon Miller, who's a top 5 pick in the draft next year. But you saw what Vanderbilt was without Liam Robbins, and it's a team that struggled to score. It's a team that didn't get a lot of good looks, and again, credit Alabama. But boy, if you had any doubt about how much Liam Robbins meant to the team, this was Exhibit A.
Correct. And Liam Robbins, basically the whole season, feels like he was kind of Vanderbilt's safety blanket when they would go in a big scoring drought. Liam Robbins was the guy they dumped it down to in the post. When a guy got by his defender on the other team, like Brandon Miller did tonight, Liam Robbins was there at the rim to swat it away. And you saw the impact of him defensively tonight. When he wasn't there, Lee Dort blocked a shot on a Bediako putback. But other than that, certainly didn't feel as intimidated around the rim as you would have if Liam Robbins was on the floor. And you saw how easily Alabama was able to get by their guy, and they have a lot of guys who can get downhill and play make for themselves and for others, but it was just such a night and day difference between Arkansas, where Anthony Black would go in the lane and he'd have Robbins right in his face, as opposed to tonight where Brandon Miller had 30. A lot of the time was just getting downhill, getting by his guy, which isn't really their fault. Brandon Miller is a lottery pick and probably more than that, but just not having Robbins down there is huge. And he didn't say he was their safety blanket when I asked him, but I think it's kind of fair to use that term. You saw the scoring droughts Vanderbilt had tonight. They had a few scoring droughts over 3 minutes, I'm pretty sure at least. And
Go for it.
It just seemed like Vanderbilt didn't have really the stability they wanted offensively, relying on the 3 ball, which seems to be what they want to do down the stretch here, is just try to win games with their 3-point shooting. Tonight they shot 18%, and really hard to win that way, and Vanderbilt, I'm not sure, can really rely on that down the stretch, but they really have to without Liam Robbins in the lineup.
That big hand in your picture was yours truly, realizing he didn't plug in the good mic. So our apologies for that. But yeah, I mean, Vanderbilt tried, Lee Dort, Quentin Millora-Brown are the 2 guys that will replace him. Dort had some moments in the first half, as you pointed out in the article, but it was interesting that down the stretch, they went to Miles Studi at the 5.
Yeah, Stack talked about in the post game a little bit that he might go with some smaller lineups, try to counteract some of the things the other teams do and make them play kind of how Vanderbilt wants to play. And I think that's something that Vanderbilt hasn't really done as much throughout the year. They've kind of adjusted to other teams. Maybe now they want to be the team that kind of sets the curve. But Studi's a built guy. I don't know if he's a guy who should be defending Oscar Tshiebwe or Jacob Toppin down the stretch here, but it seems like that might be the case at times. Stack called out Quentin Millora-Brown in the presser and said that's a guy who needs to play better. I think it's pretty hard to argue that at the moment. Lee Dort still has a little bit of growing up to do, but is a guy who shows some flashes. Stack has said in the past, though, there's a reason why his veterans are getting minutes there. Yeah. Now Lee Dort and Malik Dia have to grow up fast, and it's not time for cute flashes from them. It's time for them to produce in SEC basketball games, and that's certainly a bit more challenging than what they've had to do in the past.
Well, Colin Smith has been their best freshman. Lee Dort might be their most important for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and I think Dort's probably the safe option there because Smith hasn't got the jumper down yet. Although he's picked up the scheming and everything a little bit faster, if Dort can stay out of foul trouble, that can be, like you said, their most impactful freshman, a guy who can really give them good minutes down the stretch and maybe the most viable Robbins replacement if Millora-Brown continues to play like this. Malik Dia also, I think, showed you some flashes, but Stack brought up in the presser that, hey, you see those flashes? Those shots are great that he makes, but the fact that he takes those shots are the reason that they're just flashes and why he's not in the rotation, why he's only playing 7 minutes a game. And you're going to have to see more Malik Dia just because of the build. But his development and Lee Dort's are going to have to come a little bit faster than we expected. They're going to have to grow up quickly, and they're not going to be treated like freshmen the rest of the way here.
I guess if you're looking for a bright side in this, it's that you're not going to have Liam Robbins next year. And this is a lot of ifs here because in the transfer portal era, it's not like the roster you have today with all the guys coming back is necessarily you have the roster next year. But let's just play along for sake of argument. Robbins, they may get him back sometime in February, March. That gives you a lot of time to develop a door, to give Diaz some more minutes, to do a lot of things, because that's 23 minutes a night that's got to go somewhere. And so I think maybe we have a little bit more of a chance to find out what the freshmen are made of between now and the finish line.
Yeah, and I don't think you think this is the finished product by any means with those freshmen, but you also know what you have a little bit more as they have to grow up quickly. You know, maybe, hey, we got to go get a guy in the portal to come in and give us. That's convenient. But you figure at some point maybe you think if Dort's not getting it done, if Malloy Brown's not getting it done, maybe you go get a guy in the portal. And you may not have otherwise known that if Robbins hadn't played here. I think this floor spacing will certainly be impacted. I think Robbins can stretch it a little bit more than Dort and Quinn Malloy Brown can, but there's certainly some things that you can take from this that are positive, although you feel awful for Liam Robbins. He's a guy who has had injury struggles throughout his career, really good dude, and just somebody that Vanderbilt really needed to lean on here. This is his last year of eligibility. Do we know for a fact that he'll play many college basketball games for the rest of his career? I'm not sure, and you just feel for the guy, although there are some things that you can take and maybe think about that are interesting throughout the rest of the year.
Well, he'll play somewhere for sure after here, whether that's the NBA or overseas. Liam can have a long career if he can stay healthy, and even if he doesn't stay healthy, he'll play a good bit. But yeah, and I think the thing back to Robbins' absence tonight that I noticed, and credit Alabama. Alabama's what, the top? On defense, top four.
They're 8 in defense.
8, okay. In that elite territory. I just didn't think, and especially, I felt Tyler Lawrence was the guy, although they play different spots, was the guy that Lawrence just didn't have many clean looks. He was kind of the guy that they looked to make stuff happen. A lot of times he was taking shots, in the paint, but you look up and there'd be 3 guys in the vicinity. I'm not saying that to be critical of Lawrence. They didn't get open shots much all night, and when the shot clock's running out, somebody's got to make a play. But you could just tell the threat of not having Robbins out there along with a really athletic team. That's kind of what you saw. I don't know that Vanderbilt got many clean looks all evening.
Yeah, and it's not just that Robbins is your low post guy. He's also your pick and roll guy who can go out on the top of the key and make a pass here or there, or he's a guy who can maybe step out and shoot a little bit, although I think he shoots a little bit worse than what you would think of when you think of Liam Robbins. He's only shooting at about 18% from 3 on the year. Liam Robbins is just so important, and he was really important to them, not just in terms of his output, but just in terms of them being multifaceted offensively. It felt like Arkansas is probably the most complete offensive game they've played this year, although the three-point shooting did lead the way, like kind of we expected. You felt like maybe they had more of a multifaceted, complete offense. Tonight it didn't feel like that. Tonight it felt like it was very guard-driven, very three-point reliant. They had to get a look. If they wanted to look in the paint, it either had to be somebody taking his guy one-on-one off the bounce, which I'm not sure is really Vanderbilt's game. They don't have a Brandon Miller, or it was set reliant. So certainly a lot different offensively, and Stackhouse really didn't have much time to adjust to that. He said this morning is when he found out about Robbins, and it's going to be tough. He's going to have time to game plan, but it certainly doesn't get a whole lot easier without Liam Robbins on the floor.
Well, I'm just thinking through it, and this is the night that if you're going to win, you probably needed Miles Studi to step up and hit 6 3-pointers. He goes 1 of 6 from the field and scores 3 points. And unless you have somebody have an out-of-the-box performance on a night like this, no, granted, Alabama is going to be the toughest team left on their schedule. Now, when they're really going to have a tough time is round 2 against Tennessee, because as good defensively as Alabama is, Tennessee's even better. Tennessee's the #1 defensive team in the country, and the league is a very defensive-heavy league. Mississippi State is down the road, so there's going to be some nights where the buckets and the looks come easier than they did tonight, but still that was a little bit of a warning of teams that have athletes and get after you. That just may not be enough firepower to pull off a lot of wins against good teams.
Yeah, the three-pointer for this team is the great equalizer with all that athleticism. And they didn't get enough good looks from beyond the arc tonight. And it's basically as simple as that. They shot 18% from beyond the arc. They took 33 attempts, and you feel like maybe less than 20 of those were good looks.
Yeah.
Really, a lot of those were late in the shot clock. A lot of those were looks that you just kind of had to have because Bama was switching a little bit. They were getting after him with their athleticism. Just made it really challenging on Vanderbilt. And tonight you kind of saw what the blueprint is against Vanderbilt. You got to get out. You got to pressure them on the three-point line, make them beat you off the bounce. Now that they don't have Liam Robbins to throw a lob to or dump it down to for an easy layup or dump it into the post for, you're really able to press out on Vanderbilt, especially when they play with Miles Studi at the 5.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they have enough guys who can beat you off the dribble, especially against a team like this or Mississippi State or even LSU, like you said, to really make an impact offensively without Robbins.
One stat I noticed tonight, and I don't know that people are talking about this much because the other storylines, turnovers 14-9 tonight, they win that. That's another thing that had to happen. So just wanted to mention that, but we can't end this without talking about Brandon Miller.
Oh my gosh.
My goodness. He made it look easy most of the time. I mean, just he would glide down the lane, get a layup, and that's what Brandon Miller does to a lot of people. But the shot that just got me, I don't know if you remember this, it was on this end of the floor in the second half, maybe, I don't know, 13, 14 minutes left. He gets into the lane. He's got a tough shot. He's got a man or two on him. He's off
Studi,
balance. Right? I don't remember. It didn't matter.
It did not matter.
Whoever was on him was on him, and he's leaning back, fading away, and hits about a 10-footer.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you couldn't guard that play any better than that, and the kid made a play.
Yeah, and first of all, I appreciate that you bring up the turnovers. I think I bring them up every post-game show, and I've been called an old man on the board many a time for that. So I appreciate you being the old man in this episode rather than myself. Yep. But Brandon Miller was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I think probably the second play of the game, Brandon Miller went down the floor and got a fast break and put a guy on a poster. I don't know if anybody really remembers that, but that's the play that stood out to me. Is like, hey, we got something here. And then a few possessions later, hit a step back 3, got a guy off balance, and the guy's unbelievable. The guy's probably going to be a top 5 pick, and there's not much Vanderbilt can do about that. They're going to see a few guys like that this year. They've seen a few in the past, and how do you guard that? Colin Smith was on him. Colin Smith's long. He can move. Nothing you can do about it. Miles Studi was on him. Miles Studi is built. He can move. Nothing you can do about it.
No.
And that's really what Brandon Miller does to you, even on a night like tonight.
The other final thing, the crowd was good tonight. I drove up from Franklin, and it is normally a 25-minute drive for me. It took me an hour and 45 minutes tonight. There was a fatal wreck, I think, or a pedestrian accident not far south of Vanderbilt off 65, and that held a lot of people up. I got in the gym with about 13 minutes left in the first half, along with a couple of other media people who were in the same mess. But I walked in, and the first thing, like I was in the concourse walking in, it's like, this is some noise I've not heard in this building in a while. It was loud. The fans were fired up. Vanderbilt was in the game. It was down 22-21 early. It was really loud. It was a lot of back and forth at the time. Alabama then went on a run, led by 10 at the half, and just kind of coasted in the second half, went up 23. And Vanderbilt made it close because that's what Vanderbilt seems to do against everybody, good or bad. But when it was a little bit in doubt early, you heard this building loud again. I don't know that you've been in this place for that, but it did sound a little bit like the best of times in here in Burst tonight. There were still a few thousand empty seats. There were still a lot of Alabama fans here, but I thought the fans that were here, and probably the students were a big part of that, did make it a good atmosphere.
Yeah, and it was like that Saturday too. I noticed Saturday was probably the best I've seen this place, including Memphis. And it may not be the old Memorial Gymnasium that you guys talk about, but it has created a really unique environment. Because if you look over there, it's all the Arkansas fans on Saturday, it's all the Alabama fans today, and they're going back and forth with the students. It feels like, I wouldn't say it feels like a neutral site because that's kind of disrespectful, but it's just a really cool environment. There's obviously more Vanderbilt fans most nights, but it just makes for a different environment than what I've really seen at home games. And it's pretty cool, especially in a game like this with a really big fan base and a good team. And although this one felt a lot worse than the final score indicated, it was nice to see the crowd really involved in this, even when it was pushing 20 and pushing 25.
They wanted something to be excited about. It just, in the end, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Anything we didn't get to of note?
No, I just think Liam Robbins is the big story tonight, obviously. Vanderbilt was 2-2 heading into tonight. Without him scoring over 10 points, that was Southeastern Louisiana and Morehead State the wins. They're going to win those games regardless of what Liam Robbins did, if he had 30, if he had 5. But their losses were Southern Miss and Memphis. And tonight, probably their biggest margin of defeat. It was tied for their biggest margin of defeat, but it felt like more. Tonight, Memphis, they never really were in the game. It felt like past the first half, and Southern Miss was maybe their worst loss of the season. So you just kind of wonder what the future of this team is with Liam Robbins not being on the floor. You wonder how that plays into everything that could go down this offseason, and just a huge storyline as we head into the rest of the SEC play.
Yeah, wish we weren't talking about this one, but Joey, welcome to Vanderbilt basketball. This is 6, 7, 8 years in a row I've lost count where they've lost maybe their best player for a month or more. It's been unreal. But Alabama, too, by the way, has now won, I believe, 7 in a row. All have been by double digits. 6 of the 8 have been by 15 or more. So Vanderbilt, one of the 2 teams that kept it under 15.
It didn't feel like they were going to for a while, but they
no,
did.
But they always have a knack of doing that, it seems.
And I think that's something that I know people don't like to give Stat credit. There are some things that he obviously hasn't earned credit
well,
with.
His teams always fight. They've fought when they are, 2-12 in the dead of winter. I've covered a few of those. They fight when they're down 20. It just seems like whatever the situation, whether it's a season that's not going well or a game that's not going well, they always manage to make it a little more interesting than you think. And that's a quality they're going to have to lean on a lot between now and the end of the year.
Yeah, Arkansas was a great example of that. They get pushed at the end of the half, literally. Well, I guess Vanderbilt did the pushing, but
I think there was some.
there was also some other pushing, but they get pushed. You think Arkansas is up 8, they were up 9 at one point in the late first half, and maybe you think they're probably going to go away here. Although the crowd's behind them, it feels like Arkansas has all the momentum. They come out of the half, their veterans fired them up, and they go out and play their best half of the season tonight. It feels like they're going to go away when they're down 20. Maybe it could get worse than that. They come back and make this a 12-point game. Then it's a 6-point game, but it's back to 12 eventually. And that's kind of the thing for Vanderbilt. They've gotten close a bunch. We've seen this movie before, though.
Yeah.
They get there and haven't been able to close them out with the exception of Arkansas and a few non-conference games.
Well, we'll see if Vandy can stack some wins together, but it's certainly going to be a lot tougher without Liam Robbins.
Was that a pun intended?
Semi. It's getting late, so we should go. All right, he is Joey Dwyer. I'm Chris Lee. We're Vandy Sports. Thanks for watching, and hit that subscribe button so when we do a live stream, you get notified, or when we put something up here, you get notified. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.